All right, I thought I would go ahead and make a little video on cleaning up and repairing some of the marring and scratches and stuff on this old Beretta model 1951. So I think these were used in the 80s, maybe into the 90s. So I picked this up as a used surplus pistol, probably used by Italian police or security or somebody. I did a similar thing with this little Beretta Model 81 in an earlier video. It's 32 ACP. It had some marring and stuff on the slide. We kind of went through fixing that up. So we're going to do the same thing with the M1951 Beretta. So as I said, it's 9mm. It's got some scratches here on the slide. Most of them are pretty shallow, so they won't be too much trouble. There's some deeper ones back here. The grips are kind of scratched up, so I'll see what I can do with those. Another thing I noticed was the rear sight is loose, so that'll be actually the first thing I do when I take this apart, is fix this. I have a couple ways I can do that. One is I can see if I can push this metal down on top here. Whoops, sorry. Which is a little tricky because you don't want it to look different. It's also possible to peen the sight after I take it out and put it back in to make it tight. Another option I have is Loctite. Another option I have is putting a little piece of aluminum underneath the sight, which would be hard to do and not have it show here, but I may end up doing that. Another thing that could be done would be to just put in a different sight. I have a friend who's, a gunsmith. He says he has a whole bunch of sights, so that's another possibility, would be that I would, just go over there and see what he's got and trade for one of his Beretta sights that would fit in here snugly, but we will see. So I haven't fired this gun yet. It has this, I think it's an 8-round magazine, 8mm. So we need to take it apart and clean it and inspect everything before we fire it, of course. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing I'll do is take this slide off, and what you do is I haven't done this for this gun yet, is you just move the slide backwards rather, until you reach this little detent, this semi-lunar detent in the slide here. Whoops, sorry again, which allows me to rotate this. There we go. So I rotate that little release handle, and then the slide should be able to come off. Yep, there it goes. So I haven't taken this apart until just now after receiving it. I see it's got a fair amount of oil on the rails, so that's good. Let's look at this part. Here's our slide. Let's take our recoil rod and recoil guide spring out. Let's see, how's this come apart? Trying to remember. There we go. And then lift this up, and it should come out towards the back. Yep, okay, so our barrel comes out when you match these lugs up. This is cut out in the slide right here, and then the barrel comes out this way. So I see a little bit of wear on our slide. This looks like some galling right here. I guess that's what that is. I may, just by feeling it, doesn't look like I need to do anything there. I'll run a file across it and see if there's some mountain peaks that I can take off there. My breech face is pretty clean. It makes me think that this gun's been carried around a lot and not fired all that much. So, like I say, my first thing is going to be on this part right here, be to to resolve this loose sight issue. Let's remove our grips. The little slot on these screws is pretty narrow. And I use this little screwdriver here. So these screws, we'll clean those up and re-blue them before we put them back on. You know, some people with some of these old guns, they may just want to leave them as is, and that's fine. This gun is not that easy to come by, but I wouldn't call it rare or anything, so I'm going to go ahead and do my best to clean it up and make it look a lot better than it does. So there's one grip. I don't see too much dirt or anything underneath here. Here's the other side to see how that comes off. Not sure. Oh, there it goes. Same thing, looks pretty clean under there. There's some oil down in here. Looks like it was over oiled. So these grips have some mostly shallow scratches on them. Looks like it won't be too tough to clean these up. So, which would just entail some pretty fine sanding here and then polishing. And some of these will probably end up remaining because this one here is about 0.5 millimeter deep. This one right here. So, all right. So, like I say, the first thing I'm going to do is resolve this loose sight issue. Okay, I removed the sight, so there it is. How I did that was I put this slide in a vise, you know, with protection on either side so it won't touch the metal. And then I just tapped on this slide from this left side here and pushed the sight over that way with a hammer, and I used this. I just held it up like this and tapped it on the side, and it came right off. So the goal now is to get this sight back in and have it tight so it won't be able to move around. So I will have to do a little bit of experimenting. Like I say, if I peen this part right here, that's really easy to do, but it's very problematic because then you see these two peening marks in the top of your slide. That's not going to look nice. If I peen the sight itself, I can do that on the sides here and, you know, just move that metal out slightly so that it'll be snug in there, won't move around. Or some Loctite, or a different sight, or put some on something between the bottom of the sight and this little flat part here in this dovetail to keep the sight pushed up. I may try that first because that is the easiest, and mess with that a little bit with little strips of aluminum foil, for example. If I don't seem to like how that's going, I'll abandon that quickly and probably peen my sight here. That way I won't bother my friend with his sights if I don't have to. Another thing I noticed was some of the metal on the side of this front sight's been pushed down. It makes me think that perhaps the gun was dropped straight down at one time, you know, for that to get, you know, so it looks like it's a pretty good hit there. And if you look at my sight here in the rear, looks like it may have taken a hit too. So, but the gun itself doesn't have any damage on it that I can see from being dropped. All right, so anyways, back to the sight. I'll see what I can do there. I'll make a decision what I'm going to do, and then I'll show you what I did. So what we have here, I haven't put the sight in yet, but I've cut some strips of aluminum foil. See, there's some aluminum foil right there. There's 3 of them. The reason I decided to try this first is because it's the least invasive and completely reversible and easy and fast. The tricky part is when is to know how many pieces of aluminum foil you need. And secondly, when you push the side in, are you going to be able to see any of that aluminum foil from the bottom side sticking out, from the edge of the slide here underneath the sight. So we'll go ahead, we'll tap that in and see if that seems to work okay. Like I say, this is completely reversible because I haven't changed anything. It's easy, it's fast. So I'm going to try this first and see if I can slide this rear sight over while keeping these little strips of aluminum foil right here, because they may tend to slide over this way and get pushed over this way, but we'll find out. Okay, the sight's been returned into the slide, and just as I thought, some of this aluminum foil slid out to the side. So the question now becomes, can I trim it off short enough up underneath there so that I can't see it? Remember, this is completely reversible, so if I decide that I don't like it, or I discover that the slide is or the sight rather is still not tight enough, I can just take this off and try again or do something else. So I got a blade. I cut the foil, and we'll pull that out. Okay, I can't see the aluminum foil sticking out from underneath the side of the sight there on either side, and I centered it the best I could. It's adjustable just by knocking it one way or the other, which I may end up having to do. We'll find out. And so my next step is to get a file and start going around, and wherever the metal's pushed over, like on the side of this sight here, plus there's some, it's not real severe, but it's kind of obvious right here. Some of this little scratch here, some of the metal's higher because you can feel it with my fingernail. Go around and smooth all that stuff off. I may end up working on this corner right here to sharpen that up with a file. Plus, it's got these good grief, can't remember what they're called. Right here where you hold the slide and pull it back. These cuts here look like they're not 90 degrees, they might be 60-degree angle cuts here. So I can feel some of these are rough, so I have a file that has 60-degree angle on it. It would be, nope, that one's a 90. Where'd it go? It's a triangular file. Well, that is it. I wonder I couldn't find it. So this file is triangular, which means each one of these angles is 60 degrees, because 60 times 3 is 180, and all the angles of a triangle need to add up. So we're going to go ahead and spend a few minutes filing those down. I'll use a flat file for the side of the sight right here to sharpen this angle up, not this file right here. And I'll spend a few minutes doing that. So here's the metal on the side of this front sight. I went across it to make it shiny, so hopefully you can see what I'm talking about. So it's been bumped right here, and this corner's been pushed over. So I'm going to flatten that and restore that best I can. I won't be doing it like this freehand, because I can't control my file as it's working on the metal that way. So I'll need to turn the camera off and put this in the vise, and that way it won't move, and then I can come across here with my file like this and restore this corner. Alright, so I've removed the damage on this corner. I can no longer feel my fingernail or a tool like this catch as I move up this way, because I've removed that metal that was pushed over. So the next thing I'll do is, see, I noticed that the top of this front sight got some high and low spots on it from being bumped. So I'll go ahead and just knock the peaks of the mountains off right there. I'll be bluing, you know, all these areas later, so you shouldn't be able to, you know, see anything there when we're done. Okay, I think we've got that completed. So I went ahead and did on the other side of this site, about 5 strokes right there. I could barely see and feel something there. On the top of the site, I had my file move straight back like this, so that the little file marks, which are not too deep or too obvious, so they follow the long axis of the slide rather than going this way or an angle or anything. That probably just would help me as far as light reflection goes. So I just went straight back like that, straight back. So probably taken this front sight about as far as we need to. Now come back to, what was this side? There's some kind of little mini gouge right there. We're going to flatten that, and I'll probably go over the whole length of this slide on the side here after I finish these angled cuts right here, because there's some little rough edges on the corners, like right there with my 60-degree file will catch the internal part of those problem areas. And then, like I said, I'm going to have the surface here slightly worked. My goal is not to remove all this bluing, but rather just to knock the peaks of these little, you know, things off here that I can feel most of them with my fingernail, and to make it smooth enough so we can go ahead and blue it, which is what I did with this model 81. In fact, this one was a piece of dust on there. This one was worse. So than this one when I started. So I'm going to spend a few minutes doing that. So step one will be go through these grooves here with my file to clean up any of the places where the metal's been pushed over on the corner, like there's there and there, and then we'll clean up the flat surface and see if we can get it ready, you know, to be blued. We'll just be, I guess, re-bluing these areas where the bluing's been scraped off. Same thing on the right side of the slide. All right, so I've completed that. So how I did that was, I used the file going this way, back and forth, along the long axis of the slide. I don't want any file marks going in any other direction. If you look closely at the slide with the light on it just right, it's easy to see that the factory's machining marks go lengthwise here, and they're nice and straight. So any work that we do is going to be going in that same direction. So I used my file here, so I can't feel these bumps here anymore from, you know, where the scratches were. I went across here because there was a few right here on this flat surface of these you know, little cutouts here. So I went, like I said, straight back and forth like this, straight. All right, there were some scratches up here, so those are gone. I'm not trying to strip the bluing off the slide. I just want to take care of all the, you know, the marring. On the corner here, there was some bumps here in the corner, so I still went along the length of the long axis of the slide, but I didn't have my file flat on the slide, but rather tilted up about 3 degrees, and they come across here like that, and like this, and I took those little rough things off. You could feel on the corners here where the slide got bumped like that. So that's pretty easy, and the slide, you know, you can see some areas where my work has removed, you know, a little bit of bluing here and there, but overall, you know, the bluing on this slide is fairly intact, and we'll just be repairing it with some cold blue. So I think we're just about done there, and I'll go on and I'll inspect the frame. The frame is in pretty good shape. I don't think I'm going to have to do any filing. I don't feel any gouges or anything right around here. So this is going to be pretty straightforward. Clean that up. Same thing with the barrel. Barrel's in pretty good shape. I can feel a little bit of right here in this corner where the end of the barrel is bumped things. So I'll go ahead and just kind of smooth those off so that when I rotate it like this and my fingernails going along that corner, I don't feel the rough bumps there anymore. And of course we'll be rebluing all that. After that, I'll return my attention to these grips and see what I can do with those, like as we talked about. I also have my screws, which are in pretty good shape. You can see a little bit of marking on there from screwdriver. Some of that's me, so I'll go through that with a wire brush and clean that up the best I can. Anywhere I can feel any metal pushed up like there, I'm able to feel that. I can just take my file and just bump or knock the peaks of those little mountains right off there. So when I blew it, it looks pretty smooth across there. So, and as far as the magazine goes, it's in pretty good shape. There's a little bit of light rust here. I didn't even see it the first time I took it out. I could see it later on after I got some bright light on it. So looks like maybe there's a couple times where the guy had this in his holster. Maybe he got rained on a couple times. A drop of water got up underneath here. So I don't think I'm going to be stripping this magazine or anything. I'll just go across it with gosh, I don't know, maybe some Scotch-Brite or something. I'll think about that for a little while, because I might end up not doing anything, just keeping it oiled, because it's fine. Anyways, let's carry on. Alright, well, I've cleaned up this corner around the edge of the barrel here. Remember, I don't want to change the shape of this corner at all. I'd rather just remove the, where the metal's pushed up, where it's been bumped. So I did that with two different motions. The first motion would be this outside part of the corner. This barrel's been machined around this way. So all of my file marks have to follow that same direction so they won't be noticeable when I'm finished. So I put my file right here. I rotated the barrel. See how I'm just spinning it? All right. I just rotated the barrel like that. That's because, like I was saying, I want to follow these fine machining marks on here, which go around this way. When it comes to this part of the barrel, there's some machining marks that come around this way, and so I have my file at this angle right here, and I rotated the barrel like this. So I only did this like, I'm not pushing very hard. I only did it like 5 times. Well, now that there would be 7. So I may take some Scotch-Brite and kind of do a little bit extra smoothing here before we get our cold blue and fix that up. And so we should be good to go there. There aren't any other issues on this barrel. The riflings are in, I don't know if you can see those or not, in really good shape. They're real sharp and defined. And like I say, this gun doesn't appear it's been fired much, because even my ramp here, where the 9mm round comes in, it'll bump into this ramp as it comes in. My bluing's not been rubbed off there or anything, so thousands of rounds going through here will kind of rub that off. You see a little shiny spot start to develop there. I don't have that, so like I said, it doesn't look like this gun has seen a lot of use as far as firing goes, but a lot of use as far as carrying it around goes. So I'm going to turn to these grips real quick. Remember, as far as sandpaper and files go, this hard bakelite material is, compared to that stuff, is pretty soft. So it'd be really easy to, gouge and this grip with you know, like sandpaper, for example. So we're going to need something pretty fine so that when we go across here and start smoothing this, that we don't end up with deep scratches that we're going to have to deal with later. Because if we introduce a bunch of scratch marks into this, we're going to have a pretty tough time making this thing look nice. There are some scratches on this. Our goal is to reduce them. So let's give that a try. I'm going to start off by using a little piece of 1200 grit sandpaper. Besides being 1200, this sandpaper has been used for a couple other projects. So it's you know how sandpaper goes. It kind of seems to get smoother and less abrasive as you use it. So I'm going to use this sandpaper. All of my movements will be this way. I won't be going up and down or on angles. It's all going to be back and forth like this. I'm hoping to you know, not have any scratch marks in here when I'm done, and any that might remain will be following along the same angulation as the this design here in the grip. Took me about 20 seconds to realize I need to step it up a little bit, at least to get started. So I moved up to 500 grit. I'm being pretty careful here. And after that, I'll go back to this 12. Then I'll have to use some polishing compound, and we'll see in the end what we end up with here. I'm thinking that these grips will look pretty good when we're done. Remember, the idea here is twofold. One, always follow the same angulation as the design on the grip to keep the light reflection always the same. Two, be pretty careful because we're not trying to change the shape or any contours here. We're just trying to reduce the depth of these scratches here enough to where we can polish it and make our grip look pretty good in the end. Alright, well, I've made it through the first step of cleaning up this grip here on the right side. I found that the material the grip is made out of is soft enough that it clogged up the sandpaper I was using rather readily. So I put it in, this is wet dry paper, so I did it underneath water, and that sped the work up quite a bit. You'll need to, if you do any work like this on a gun, you need to be a little careful. For example, there's a flat surface here and a flat surface here. As you're sanding, it would be pretty easy to start rounding this corner, which you don't want to do. You want it to be sharp. So one thing you can do would be, for example, get something flat like this file, and then the file will keep the paper flat against the surface that you're working, and go like this. So you can do this flat surface here and this flat surface here, but not round this corner, because if you round this corner here, it's going to look, you know, worn, and it's not going to be very pretty. So here's the other side, which I have not worked on yet. This one here had a lot more and deeper scratches than, you know, the other side of the grip. I did that one first. So return to our sandpaper with the water. Remember, I was using 500 grit, so this is 500 right here, and we'll see if we can knock out most of these little scratches. Oh, by the way, when it comes to where these the grip screw is, you want those corners to remain sharp too. So a good way to do that is the same thing. You know, use some flat surface, like for example this file, as you're coming across here, so that I don't round these corners. I don't round this corner up here around this hole, because you want those, you want the transition from this surface to that one to be sharp, like it was originally designed. So if you round those, it won't look good anymore. Also, I noticed on the edge, there's this kind of a flat surface right here, right on the edge there, where the two grips come together, like that, see? And I did the same thing there. I used something flat with my paper to come across here to maintain this sharp edge here, okay? Because if we round that off, our grip's just not going to look good. There's a little bit of a flat surface right here, so it curves around this way and then suddenly becomes flat. So the same thing there. You can use your paper here and with a file, for example, to keep this edge right here nice and flat so that you have that definition of this curvature as you come around, you know, the front part of the grip there. If you're working and you find that, I started to round that, you know, it's okay, because if you're really careful, you wouldn't have rounded it much. You can take your some kind of a hard straight surface like I'm doing right here, and you can restore that edge right there pretty easily in just a few strokes. All right, I've finished step one of cleaning up these grips. So remember I kept all of the marks going the same direction as the design on the grips. I was careful not to round any corners by using a flat hard object. In my case, it was file on top of sandpaper there. I discovered that I needed to prevent my sandpaper from clogging up so quickly. I did it underwater with some wet dry paper. So this is the result of 500 grit paper. So what I need to do is polish these. Beretta originally had a pretty good gloss to their grips. So, oh, by the way, these grips here in this Model 81, I did not try to polish them or anything. I felt like they were good enough as is to go with the gun, you know, as it was going to result. In the case of the M1951, the grips were a little bit more beat up, and I had more problems with the metal here. So I went ahead and did that extra step here. So I'll go ahead and figure out a way to polish these. I have some polishing compounds I can try, and we'll see if we can restore that gloss that was originally on them. Alrighty, well, we've got the M1951 back together. So if you remember, some of the bluing was gone from this part of the barrel, and there were some little dings around the edge of this barrel, so I used my file around the perimeter as I showed you. One thing I didn't show you was before I put my cold blue on here, to make this even more uniform, I wanted to use some Scotch-Brite like this. So I used this heavy-duty Scotch-Brite right here. It'll scratch metal pretty good. So I can't do exactly what I did right now because I've already put some cold blue in here, but let's pretend like this paper towel here is my Scotch-Brite. I had the barrel in my hand, so not in the gun, but it was just in my hand. And I went down on top of the Scotch-Brite, pushed down a little bit, and just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. And that evened out that and gave it a nice, gave it a nice kind of a matte semi-gloss sheen there. Then I cold blued that. Cold blued all those areas on the slide that we were working on. I put the grips back on. I have not used polishing compound on these grips yet. Who knows, maybe I just leave it just as is. It looks slightly shinier than it did a bit ago when I showed you, because there's a little bit of oil on my hands from putting this gun together. When I rubbed across here, kind of gave a little bit of a glossy shine there. The magazine, I just oiled that, so I can mess with the magazine anytime in the future should I decide to. I like to have at least 3 magazines for all of my guns. I only have one here, But I did find some online, and I ordered those, and they'll be coming, and I'll clean those up and make those work. So I think this 9mm model 1951 Beretta is going to be a fun little shooter, and we cleaned it up. It looks, I mean, it's not perfect by any means, but it looks a lot better than it did, you know, when I first got it. So we cleaned it, we smoothed things out, glued those areas in, put it all back together. So there you go. Oh, by the way, I had so much fun doing this. I'm contemplating on getting a Beretta 92S and do the same thing there. Have some fun taking it apart, cleaning it, fixing things up, put it together. Have a good day.